Mookie Betts is going to need his infielder's glove again next year. Once again, the Clippers have to spin losing Paul George. And football isn't life and death. Only USC's Jayden Maiava didn't get the memo. Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos morning report. It's November 7th, 2024. Welcome back to the Sanctum Sanctorum of LA Sports. We added a new subscriber to the Angeleno Familia last night. Thank you for getting in on the ground floor. I'll do my best to keep you informed. And if you like being in the know about LA Sports, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It lets you know when we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist, and by all means comment. Now, before we go through the news and notes, a look at the scoreboard. Memphis 131, Lakers 114. Anthony Davis sits out with a bruise on his left heel. For that matter, Ja Morant of the Grizzlies didn't play either. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, this is one trash game to pay your hard-earned money to see. Now, LeBron James did his part with 39 points, but the Lakers finished a 5-game road trip at 1-4. Meanwhile, Clippers 110, Philadelphia 98. Norman Powell scores 26 points. The Clippers improved to 4-4. Powell was the only guy in the game to top 20 points, by the way. Paul George scored 18 points in his return to LA, and we'll talk more about him in a few minutes. Meanwhile, today, Vancouver's at the Kings at 7:30. The Kings could take sole possession of first place in the Pacific Division with a win, and Idaho State at USC is at 7 o'clock. From what I understand, tickets are half off if you can correctly guess the name of Idaho State's mascot. So, good luck to everybody. Good luck. And let's get to the news. Mookie Betts is an MVP. He is a 3-time world champion. And yet, he still gets used like a fire extinguisher across the Dodgers infield. Whenever there's emergency, you just break the glass, you take Mookie Betts, and then you just sweep him across the infield. Second base, shortstop, second base, shortstop. But again, that was just supposedly for emergencies. The Dodgers front office is acting like there's a 5-alarm fire right now, and the season only ended just last week. General Manager Brandon Gomes addressed a lot of issues with the Scribes yesterday, and he said that the Dodgers are assuming Betts will play infield again next year. Now, what interests me about this story is not that Betts has to take one for the team. What it makes me wonder, though, is this possibly the first domino falling in a big play for the offseason? Is it? If Betts were exclusively in the outfield, you would just ink him right out in right field, right? But you move him to the infield. Now you create a hole in right. Now it's true that uber-duper, super-duper prospect Dalton Rushing was moved from catcher to corner outfield last year, but he looked super shaky in left when I saw him play in the minors. And then you're sitting there going, well, okay, is it Andy Pages? Or I wonder if there's a free agent that plays right field. I could think of Juan, wink, wink. Now, I'm actually skeptical that it is Juan Soto, and I'll tell you why in a few minutes. But still, all of this one move does create just ripple effects across the roster. So let's say you play Betts at short and you keep Gavin Lux at second. But shortstop was Betts' weakest position defensively. He wasn't a plus defender at shortstop last year. So then you go, okay, well, what if we played Mookie Betts at second, where he was pretty competent? But are you now starting Lux at shortstop again? You remember, Gavin Lux lost the starting shortstop gig super early in 2024. Hell, this brings to mind yet another possibility. Do you see the Dodgers putting Betts at second and making a play for free agent shortstop Willie Adames and then just straight up kicking Lux to the curb? I'm not saying I know the answer. I'm not saying that the Dodgers are definitely going big game hunting in the offseason either. But it does bring up some pretty interesting questions. Meanwhile, the plan for Shohei Ohtani's return to pitching is to delay it a little bit in the season in a manner similar to what the Dodgers did with both Walker Buehler and Clayton Kershaw last season. It is a bit of a curious move in that the Dodgers' open defense of their world title in Japan, of course they'd want to see Ohtani pitch. Maybe it's not the end of the world that he just plays DH again. The Dodgers, by the way, will likely start the season with a 6-man rotation, even if Ohtani isn't part of it. This is something that Gomes also told the Scribes. The Dodgers have more starting pitchers on their roster than Phillip Rivers has kids. They have a lot of options. 4 pitchers who should have a spot include, obviously, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow, Tony Gonsolin, you remember him? He missed last year because of Tommy John surgery. Maybe Dustin May. There's a belief that Andrew Friedman has always coveted free agent starter Blake Snell, by the way. You might have noticed that on the interwebs. Now, I could be wrong, but I want to pop that bubble for you. I don't think Blake Snell's coming. Because Snell, just like Juan Soto, is represented by Scott Boras. Judging from Andrew Friedman's track record, I think he would rather wash his face with sulfuric acid than to deal with Scott Boras. Why do you think Corey Seager and Cody Bellinger were let go so easily? It's because Boras was their agent too. Boras doesn't give a damn about your team. Boras wants to get paid no matter what. And he's willing to pull every trick out of his backside in order to get that done. And Boras knows, I believe, that Andrew Friedman doesn't want to deal with him either. What Boras will do is he will use rumors about alleged Dodger interest to try to create a false market for his clients and get better deals for them. How do we know this to be true? Well, among other reasons, where were Snell's last 2 stops? Slime Diego and Scum Francisco. 2 franchises that absolutely would love to stick it to LA. You don't think Boras knew that? Gomes added that the Dodgers also want to get an extension for manager Dave Roberts, but they haven't talked with him about it. What? I mean, I'd be lying if I said I loved every decision that Roberts has made, but the extension's kind of deserved now. I mean, he's won 2 World Series. He's been to 4 of them. You know who else did that? Tommy Lasorda. Lasorda, adored as a baseball ambassador. And yet he needed 20 years to get that level of success. Roberts has done that in less than half that time. Paul George returned to LA to play against the Clippers, and times have changed. For example, the game wasn't at Crypto.com Arena. He didn't get to face off against Kawhi Leonard. Oh, and everybody booed him. There's that. Yeah, that was a very welcoming environment for Paul George. Apparently, fans were also holding signs referring to how George said that he always felt like he was on the B team when he was in LA. Guys, you could boo all you want. You paid for the ticket. But George wasn't lying. He was on the B team. Now, George, for his part, said he holds no ill will to the Clippers, who wanted to keep him, but they were forced to let him go due to the NBA's new salary cap and its evil second apron. But his return, once again, forced the Clippers into damage control PR mode, just like they've been in all summer. The spinning. Oh, the spinning. Spinning until all the Clippers just threw up and permanently gave themselves vertigo. So much spinning going on. Steve Ballmer, he backed up his front office for making the changes. He told ESPN, quote, that if they don't keep George, we don't sign Derrick Jones Jr. if Paul comes back. We don't sign Chris Dunn or have our new defensive identity. Might not have signed Kevin Porter Jr., Nico Batum. You could say, well, they're not Paul George. No, they're not Paul George, unquote. And a lot of people like Steve Ballmer. I don't have a reason to hate Steve Ballmer, but there's a reason that dude simply cuts checks and doesn't make player transactions. Because let's be real, I'd rather have Paul George than all four of those guys combined. Those four players do not equal one Paul George. Let's be real. I mean, look, we always talk about how special we think we are, right? You're special, I'm special, but deep down we know 40,000 of me does not equal one Paul George. Let's just be real about that. But it's very difficult to find a way to keep him with that evil second apron. And oh, by the way, it's extremely difficult to make a trade for somebody with Paul George's abilities. You might recall, there were trade rumors last season, and this is part of the Clippers spin. There were trade rumors last season with Golden State to get younger players with better contracts in exchange for George, right? But the trade talks never went anywhere because the return from Golden State centered on Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins was on the bench. You can't sell that as the centerpiece of a blockbuster trade. Those assets were so low that a league source told ESPN, quote, nothing is better than something, unquote. And then the weirdest response through all this spin came from Kawhi Leonard, who told ESPN, quote, you don't need that many stars to win, unquote. Oh, really? If you really believe that, Kawhi, why did you push the Clippers so hard to send like 3,000 draft picks and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to Oklahoma City to get Paul George? Riddle me that. So look, if you happen to be at your local laundromat, don't be too surprised if you see Steve Ballmer and Kawhi Leonard in adjoining dryers just spinning until they puke. Spinning, it never ends. Not after you do something so costly as letting Paul George walk. One of the standards that Lincoln Riley set for USC's recruiting is that he wanted players who were just dying to compete to be on the Trojans roster. I mean, that's one of the reasons why he wasn't heartbroken when super duper mega recruit Malachi Nelson left the program for Boise State. But it's also what makes benching Miller Moss so disheartening, because Moss really wanted to play for USC. So that's the underlying theme for this little piece. Players who are claiming how badly they want to play for the Trojans. Incoming quarterback Jayden Maiava promised to, quote, lay his life on the line, unquote. This is according to the LA Daily News. Lay your life on the line? Dude, take a breath. It's college football. You're not going into Ukraine with SEAL Team 6. It is not that big of a deal. Lay your life on the line? You're in your 20s. I thought I was bulletproof too back then. Right now, I wouldn't even look at a roller coaster, much less get on it, lest I get thrown across Buena Park. Life is precious. Be careful what you lay it on the line for, guys. Now, we don't know too much of what we can expect. We do know that he played last year at UNLV, but if you're looking for a potential change as to how Maiava fits into USC's plans, I'm going to make a guess. I'm going to say more deep passes. Running back Woody Marks described Maiava's arm as a cannon. Don't be surprised if they take more deep shots. The Chargers added 2 rookies to injured reserve yesterday. Linebacker Junior Colson, a rookie, and wide receiver Simi Fehoko. The Bolts have 10 guys on injured reserve, in case you're wondering. Includes 3 linebackers, 2 wide receivers, and 2 defensive backs. Now, this has been obviously in line with Jim Harbaugh's let's play more physical football mandate. It's kind of literally like they're saying, you know what? If we want to hurt others, that's great. But if we hurt ourselves in the process, screw it. Somebody goes out on a stretcher when the Chargers play. I don't think they care if it's one of their own, apparently. Meanwhile, running back Gus Edwards was cleared to return from IR2 practice. He came from Baltimore, if you recall, as did his teammate J.K. Robbins. If you remember, the question back then was which one of them was going to get more of the touches. Short answer, it's Robbins. Edwards is averaging a career low of 3 yards per carry since he came to LA. Son of former UCLA and a Lakers player, Keith Owens, is currently at the City of Hope. He's looking for a bone marrow match to stay alive. Kyle Owens made it so far as to play for UC Riverside. He even made a shot with the clip wound up on SportsCenter. His father, Keith, played in LA in the early 1990s. If you're interested, it's actually not as risky as it used to be. Bone marrow donations are not painful now. You get a cheek swab, and if you're a match, they just draw blood. They use that for stem cells. Now, if you want to help the guy out, text "Do It for KO" to the number 61474. And that is my good deed for the month. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Talk to me about if Mookie Betts moves to the infield, if that sets off a domino effect. And for that matter, are you okay with the Clippers in the post-Paul George era? And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We talk LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Cortel Queso production. Take care.